What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Intermat Wrestling Podcast, the final show of the Intermat Wrestling Podcast. Before we get into any wrestling headlines or talk about the World Team Trials coming up, let's dig into why this is the final show. This is the final show because we are creating our own platform. If you do not follow us or haven't seen it as of yet, we will be moving to our own platform called the Quad Pod, illustriously named by Kevin Claunch. Got to give that man all the credit in the world. We had a for to give you a little peek behind the curtain, we had a document of all the different stupid names that we were attempting to throw at this. And Kevin comes into the meeting and says, "Guys, I know we haven't put any of these things in here." He's like, I've only been thinking of really stupid names, but I gave it 30 seconds of serious thought. And has anybody said that we should call it the quad pod? And immediately all the names just like went out the door. And it was just like, why were we even thinking of anything else?
It was so on the nose. I was like, maybe it's too like solid. I
No,
don't know.
it for I'll tell you this. Everyone that I have spoken to loves it. They said it's on point. It works. There's obviously four of us. Quad Pod is the stand up of all stand ups. If you ask me, I love a good quad pod and out. Knee slide if you need to as well.
Yeah.
But that's where we're moving. You guys can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and you can also subscribe on YouTube. It's Quad Pod Wrestling on all of those things. So, excuse me, Quad Pod Wrestle on Twitter because Quad Pod Wrestling is too long. But on Instagram, it is Quad Pod Wrestling. And then on YouTube, it is also the Quad Pod, but Quad Pod Wrestling. You can find under there. But everything is going to be linked below. So make sure you go and like it, share all the content that's going to be there. Make sure you're subscribing. The first episode will be after World Team Trials. All episodes will most likely, at least we're going to try to have them come out on Wednesday. So on your Wednesday morning commute, you can listen to the podcast, whether it's on YouTube or Apple or Spotify. So, or any other podcast platform that you listen to your podcast. So all of the different platforms, you will be able to get our stupidity and breakdowns and recaps and previews and anything else. We'll have coach interviews, athlete interviews. We'll also be making fun of each other like we always do. And we have to certainly give a shout out to our friends at Poseidon Strength, who are going to be our sponsor for the show as well. So, really looking forward to that. This is going to be the final Intermat Wrestling Podcast episode, but then the same really good looking faces will just be under a new name come next week.
And Kevin.
And Kevin.
I'm gonna get a filter that makes me look like Brad Pitt from 1992.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
So we're really excited about it though. Like I said, it took us a little bit. Yeah, it took us a little bit to get everything kind of under control. And obviously it's been a while since we recorded together too, mostly because we needed a little bit of a break. I think you guys more so than me, because you guys all have kids and wives. I have a girlfriend right now and children. So you guys needed to, all those points that you banked during the year, you had to kind of give them back and be like, okay, now it's time to be dads and husbands. So the break time is, I guess, kind of over as we're going to get back to action. So appreciate the fact that you guys are now well rested and you're coming back to the pod.
I don't know if I'd say well rested.
Yeah, probably not. Because like I said, you had to go spend time with the family. So you're probably even more tired than you normally are. So
the 30s are just a state of malaise.
Wait till you get to the 40s.
I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
So. Yeah, a couple more years, I'll be there. Austin is the young buck of the crew. He's the young one.
I feel old when I talk to you guys. I shouldn't say old. Experience. I feel experienced with you guys.
Yeah, he's like, this is my visit to the old folks' home. Make sure you guys have taken your naps and eaten your pudding. So,
I love pudding.
I hope they have more peaches.
I could eat a peach for days.
Cream.
Oh boy, man, this is getting off the rails. And just like that, let's get kind of back on topic, I guess, or wrestling topic. And obviously, it's the thing that everyone is talking about, and it's the Kyle Snyder situation. and I'm sure everybody kind of has the details, but if you don't, Kyle Snyder was arrested in a prostitution sting, and it is not good for wrestling. It's not good for Kyle. Doesn't look good at all, and it sucks to see. Right, he's probably the last person that I think any of us really truly suspected would ever be in any sort of trouble. But it happens, right? I think there were murmurs of everything that was happening behind the scenes before the articles and things like that came out. People were doing searches. I know we were doing searches, trying to kind of run some things down as the rumors were circulating before the article came out on Monday. And then everything kind of, I guess the shit hit the fan essentially. So with that, like, I kind of want to turn it over to you guys. What were your initial thoughts when you heard about it? Obviously it's pretty unbelievable. And even in our group, none of us were really believing it because all the searching we were kind of coming back with nothing at one point. But there's a path forward through everything. And, but he broke a law, right? Not going to act like anyone died in this situation, regardless how you feel about it. He broke a law. There's consequences to all of these things. And that's just kind of how it is. But, Robbie, what were your first thoughts when these rumors started circulating? And, how did I maybe not how did you find out, because we don't want to put any of our sources out there, but like, what was it? What were the initial thoughts?
Really surprised. Just it seemed very out of character for Kyle. I mean, I've known him since he was in high school. He's wrestled with the club that I coached at in Maryland, and it was very surprising. And like I said, out of everybody, who's on Team USA, people we think of within the wrestling community, not one that would jump to the front of mind to be arrested at all, but let alone arrested for a crime of moral turpitude, as it were. I don't know. I mean, disappointment is kind of what comes to my mind. As a husband, as a father, I always feel like those are your two most important things. And having a wife, having kids at home, to me, that's a bigger hit on that side than it is on the wrestling side. So that was my biggest takeaway is, I hurt for them more than him. He's got to deal with what he's got to deal with, but they are going to be dealing with a lot more than him.
For sure. Yeah. You guys are, like I said, you guys are all husbands, fathers. So, honestly, outside of wrestling, you can speak to it from that angle, right? Where you have something else that is bigger than you, which is your families that you obviously think of first in any of these types of situations.
I mean, I threw this out on Blood Round yesterday. We recorded a podcast. Check it out. Alex Kramer's on it from Central Michigan. Fire up chips. I'm wearing my hat. And also, I wanted to shout out Tony here from D1 Wrestling. There we go, rocking that shirt.
I'd shout Tony out if you actually sent me my damn shirt.
Oh, he didn't send you a shirt and a mug? That's what I got.
Tony, we're going to fight, Tony.
But I don't know. I'm not the clutching my pearls guy, right? Like I literally have friends who have been in similar situations to what Kyle is going through right now. And maybe that speaks to me and the company I keep. Maybe it's just more relative to human life than we realize. But what I will say is, like, yeah, I mean, this is terrible for them. It's really, really terrible for his family. I really am not going to discount that more than anything else. That is the number one and most important piece, and it stinks. It happened the Friday before Mother's Day weekend. That doesn't not suck. You know what I mean? No pun intended. And I don't know. Did you ever see the it's like comedians in coffees with cars, and it was like Norm Macdonald driving around with Jerry Seinfeld, and they were talking about not that I'm comparing the two, but like I think it was Patton Oswalt that said like the hypocrisy about Bill Cosby is what was the worst part, and he was like, I don't know about the hypocrisy being the worst part.
Yeah.
I think there were other worse parts to that. Yeah. But ultimately, like, that doesn't not impact this.
Yeah.
And like, it is what it is. It probably shouldn't in all, whatever, but like it does. Like, he's proposed to be a very different thing than it is. I propose to be much worse. And yet I'm I don't want to say I'm anti-prostitute because I'm not like going to take, the lives and money away from those hardworking ladies and men, I guess. But I will say I'm pro-fidelity. And I think that that's an important piece that we need to highlight that was very much broken in this situation. It really reminded me, this is wrestling's Tiger Woods. Because Tiger Woods was one thing before that. One morning when I woke up, I remember being at a 7-Eleven and picking up a coffee, going into work essentially, and hearing the story and being like, that sounds wrong.
Yeah,
but it wasn't, and so we were all introduced to a new Tiger Woods that we got to enjoy for a little bit. It wasn't the same, but we eventually did get the redemption story, which was fun for Tiger, and I certainly hope for that for Kyle at some point too, right? I mean, I'm sure going to talk about what may or may not happen in the near future here. But in general, Kyle's provided great wrestling moments on the mat that have been super fun. And I hope that he gets to do that again in the future. But in the short term, man, he's losing a lot. He's losing a lot personally, professionally. It's going to hit hard. So.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with both you guys. Mother's Day weekend, I was actually away with my wife and kids, and someone's texted me like, "Hey, did you hear about Kyle Snyder?" And I was like, "No." And they, we were going back and forth, and I don't believe you. Shut up. And then we get this. There's screenshots going back and forth of some other Kyle Snyder from Illinois, and it's like, oh, it's a different Kyle Snyder. Definitely not our Kyle Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out it actually was. And then it's when it gets on TMZ and a lot of these big outlets reporting it does suck for the sport. Because last time we were in the major media news, it was NCAAs. It was Wyatt Hendrickson all over Fox News, CNN, and all the big shows. That's kind of putting a highlight on wrestling, whether you disagree with the political things or not. But we had a good positive momentum spin going for us. Highlighting our sport a little bit, and now it's a kind of complete opposite of that. And and people are worried, is Kyle going to wrestle at Final X? And I think that
Final Triple X.
This shouldn't be his it shouldn't be his first thought right now. His first thought should be getting his family right, getting the kids and everything situated. And it would be a shame if he doesn't wrestle anymore past this because of this. He's going to be remembered for this, and he's one of the top wrestlers ever in America, and for this to happen and really kind of tarnish his legacy, whether you agree with it or not, it's off the mat stuff. I get it, but some people are going to attach that to this, and it's a damn shame, I think.
Yeah, and I will say he's been given a lot of grace and support. That is certainly something that I have seen, is that he's been given a lot of grace and support, and it's pretty crazy where Pat Downey said some things where I was like, man, it makes you think, right? Like, Pat was crucified.
I was agreeing with Pat Downey.
Yeah, I mean, and like, I don't, there were just certain things where you're like, he is given some grace in this situation, right? Where Pat has certainly had his past, and there's been other wrestlers that, this is not the first wrestler that has been arrested for doing anything, right? Mm-hmm. But like, there's been a lot of grace that has been given in this situation, right? So, and I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that the things that have been portrayed, this does, as Austin said, it can certainly tarnish his legacy for good, depending on certainly what happens.
Well, a disappointment is a matter of expectations at some level too, right? Yeah. And like, you're not going to be disappointed in, I don't know, I don't want to throw a name out there because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus or whatever, but like, when something happens to somebody who's a habitual line stepper, right? We'll use that terminology that it seems to be pretty.
Which honestly, in this sense, like, Pat Downey has certainly been a habitual line stepper in his own right.
If you had this story with Pat Downey, I would have been like, Pat's just getting it in, man. Let him do his
Pat's
thing.
Being Pat, yeah.
And fair or unfair, I don't really care, but it's a matter of expectations. And I think we all kind of expected more out of this guy. And that's kind of why, when you're in that spotlight, you get to have the camps that sell out, and you get to have the shoes, and you get to have all these extra things on top of, the family support and everything else. But when this happens to you, you don't get to do that, right? Like, that's why Pat Downey doesn't have a USA Wrestling Rudis shoe that was like about to drop and actually looks pretty sick. And like, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with that now.
Not on the site, tell you that much. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of TBD. He has been suspended for how long we don't really know. I believe his court case is the 19th. So what is that?
The
Monday.
arraignment's the 19th. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll figure out kind of what happens in that regard. The article coming out, I will say this, and then we can kind of move to what happens at 97. The article coming out was like, man, that really sucks. The video coming out later it just like made it a million times worse. And that was like, as tough as it was to read the headline, it was way rougher to see it, right? Like there's something to be said about being able to actually see the situation unfold and how it went, and then hear the recording of the conversation with the cop and everything else. So, I hope that this isn't the last that we see of Kyle Snyder. I hope that he is able to bounce back from this as a person more so before as a wrestler. Like, yeah, he's given a lot to the sport, but he wouldn't have done that if he wasn't the kind of person that he was. However, this is a ding to his character. It just is. So that is something that I think will certainly follow him, and it's something that he will have to speak to whenever he is back in front of cameras and microphones and stuff like that. He did put out a statement, which you can agree with or not agree with, feel however you want about it. You can feel however you want about the entire situation. You can support him. You can think that this is the worst thing ever, and you don't want, maybe your kids to go to his camps or wear his shoes or anything else like that. That is your prerogative, certainly. But the situation happened. He has to handle it. He has to reconcile his actions. That's, something that's a cross he has to bear now. Now on the wrestling side of things, this weekend we have the World Team Trials. Kyle Snyder is already qualified for Final X as he went through the U.S. Open. And I mean, surprisingly so, he went through the U.S. Open. He didn't have to. He certainly probably could have just accepted it, right? But he did end up wrestling, and, he's qualified for Final X. Now, and let's speak specifically to 97. What happens if, with him being suspended currently, we would need not just one new wrestler, but two. And right now there are 7 guys that are in these pre-seeds. And instead of wrestling the finals, I think, Robbie, you can speak to this. Robbie, you've got probably more info than me. We might see these two, whoever make the finals, wrestle at Final X. What kind of info do you have there, Robbie?
So I talked to Jay ILO today. He faced Kyle in the finals of the U.S. Open. So the winner went to Final X. When all this first came out, there was, kind of some back and forth of, what will happen with Final X? Is he going to be suspended from it? Is he going to bow out? And I think a lot of that will be determined on Monday, just kind of based on how things go. But from what it sounds like, they're not moving Jay into Final X. So as of now, Kyle still has a spot. So it sounds like they're going to use the finals of the World Team Trials as a placeholder right now. So those 2 finalists will be tentative Final X participants, and that will kind of be dependent on whether Kyle is able to wrestle or not, whether that's the actual Final X matchup or whether they'll have to wrestle the final for someone to go to Final X. So it's kind of a weird situation. I mean, it sucks for those guys because now they're in limbo and don't really know what it's going to look like, because we're less than a month out from Final X. So if they do have to wrestle another match somewhere in there, that's going to put them in a weird spot with the timing and descent and all that stuff. But so there's a lot to keep in mind with that. But it certainly puts 97 in flux. And, we go from having a multiple time world champ and Olympic champ who is likely going to be the world team rep to it very much being up in the air. And we're going to have somebody, potentially could have somebody who is not experienced on a world team stage. And, we go from there.
Yeah. This is James Green and Nick Marable all over again, but
without a
rated R. Yeah.
Without a treadmill. Yeah, that was
Maybe Kyle should
certainly
have got on the treadmill. Maybe that would have been a better choice.
yeah.
Some steam.
That would have been
You should run it
yeah.
off.
That was
Sometimes
a
you just
crazy
need to get a
situation
good
for
run
sure.
in.
Yeah. So with 97 being in flux and you know, the thing is we don't have Fargo in between now and Final X for them to wrestle at. So from my vantage point, it'll probably go down at the OTC is my guess. You know, they'll probably do it at the OTC in the OTC gym like they did. What other match was there? There was an OTC match that happened. There was a match that happened at the OTC. Not so much I mean, I can remember the one between Dake and Ringer. That one happened here in Texas at a high school, which was sold out, by the way, which was wild. There were so many people in that gym. It was so crazy.
I was at a pool watching that on my phone. I was like, hold on, I got to get out. I got my alarms going off.
It was a really cool time though, even though it was just one match. You know, and then obviously Yanni and Zane, which they wrestled in my college alma mater gym at Wilkes University. So that was really cool to have that go down there too. So there's been a number of times where we've had these one-off matches in certain places, but I feel like, you know, obviously all of those were directly for the spot. So it was given the tickets and the fanfare and everything else. This would essentially just be the US Open final going down at the OTC most likely. So we'll see what happens. But at 97, let's get into who these guys are. Ethan Laird, 7 seed. Christian Knopp is the 6. Gavin Hoffman, the 5. Eric Schultz is the 4. Justin Rademacher is the 3. J.I.L.O. is the 2. And then Hayden Zilmer back down at 97 after being up at 125.
Pumped for him
as the 1 seed. So let's talk about it a little bit. Obviously, we probably know where Robbie lies on this. So, Robbie, give us your thoughts on Jay's chances of making it to Final X.
I mean, I feel good about it. He's continually progressed and gotten better every time he's gone out. His training's been great in Philly. It's been really good for him up there to get a new coaching staff, new styles, new exposure.
Yeah, how is that going? I mean to interrupt, but like he's there with, you know, a brand new head coach at Penn, and then obviously Brandon Slay is gone from Penn RTC as well. How's the training? How are things going there?
I haven't hit on too much about that. It was just kind of a brief conversation today after he got a workout in. But I mean, the last time I talked to him before all the changes went down with Slay, I mean, he loves it up there and it's been really good for him. I mean, it's a cool story. He wasn't the greatest high school wrestler in Virginia, wasn't a big recruit, went to UVA, got better every year, got screwed out of All-American status by not getting back points against Max Dean. I will forever die on that hill. And, you know, he's gotten better every time he's gone out, and he's had good results in international tournaments. He's figuring out freestyle and getting better every time. I think Zilmer probably has the 1 seed because he has some better credentials at 125. But coming down, he's going to be a big ass 97. So
yeah, he's gonna be huge.
Yeah,
and he's a lumberjack, so there's that too.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Zilmer, it needs to be referenced though. Like, you know, Zilmer was a world team member at heavyweight.
Yeah,
like not that long ago. And if you think about the list of heavyweights that we had, like it's wild. Like we talked about him yesterday, and it's like, okay, so you got to consider Gwiz. He beat Gwiz to get the spot, right? And Gwiz was a 2-time world bronze medalist, I think, at the time.
Correct.
That sounds right.
Obviously, I don't think that Gable was competing that year for whatever reason, but because he probably
might have been the football of the WWE year.
Yeah, something along those lines. I think Mason Paris was just too young, and you had, I mean, you know, but point being, like he was in the mix with like a serious list of contenders that we've had. I think
Paris may have lost to Gwiz that year.
He might have. That sounds
in the semis, I think is what it was.
Yeah. So like, there's just. We've had a litany of like ultra badasses at heavyweight, and he made it. He was the guy. So he's not to be messed with. And him dropping down is probably his better weight, to be honest, anyway. But like, when you're stuck behind a Kyle Snyder who's like 6 years younger than you, you're like, whatever, I guess I'll just go up, I guess. See what happens.
Chances were certainly better at 120.
Yeah. So yeah. I think he's fairly the one seed, and I'm a big JIL fan too. But that's Ethan Laird, I will throw out there as like dark horse. Like that guy's always been a monster wherever he's been.
True.
Yeah, not a lot of depth experience-wise here at this weight. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of younger faces.
Yeah, I'm just curious how Zilmer's weight cut holds up. This first time he's
That's
down to 7, right?
It's got to be a rough cut.
And not only that,
he was eating a ton to get up to like heavyweight. Like I think he's eating like a regular human being now.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like Dake's first go round at 86, where he was eating everything in sight to be that big.
Yeah.
But the thing is like I wonder if the descent to 97 was a thing originally. Like obviously, like he can cut out.
It's hard to be a last minute decision.
Yeah, but if you're kind of a tweener, right? And this happens, right? Where you're like 97, I can get there. Like it's not like I can focus and get there and win at 97 and not feel my best, right? Like as we said, there's not a lot of depth at 97. The guy, I guess, I mean, let's call it what it is. His biggest test would be Aiello, and they're most likely going to hit in the finals, right? Like not to jump over any of these guys. Justin Rademacher, obviously not him. He's pretty good in his own right.
And he looks just like Matty Singleton. It's creepy.
He does. We figured that out during the year too, and we saw a picture of him. He's a much bigger Matty Singleton though, but in the face, yes, I can see it. But Zilmer being, the guy he is, being a world teamer at 125 before, I feel like it can be one of those, like I'm within striking distance. If I start now, I can make 97 and feel like shit a little bit, but be big enough and strong enough to compete against, let's call it what it is, a pared down field. I mean, none of these weight classes have a tremendous amount of guys in them. Some have more depth, but not a lot of wrestlers in them. So I mean, maybe it was a conscious effort that he had already made prior to the Snyder news. But it is certainly interesting to have him back down at 97, and thinking that this is where he wants to be back at. And it probably is just I'm really tired of eating, the whole cow to be up at 125.
Especially with beef prices right now.
Yeah, right.
Outrageous.
So give me Zilmer. I no shot at Aiello, but give me Zilmer just based on the fact that he's kind of been here before and he's been on the team. He does have the accolades to do it, but I do like what we're seeing out of Aiello and how he's progressed. Any other picks you guys want to throw out? Austin, you want to throw out a pick here at 97?
Yeah, I do like Aiello. I've heard really good things about him coming from the Penn and Drexel people. That weight cut for Zilmer. He wrestled 125 3 weeks ago at the US Open. Obviously he didn't weigh 125 kilograms, but like how big was he? And it's a different training when you're starting to cut weight. Your body doesn't feel like it usually does, and it may have an effect on him. So yeah, I like Aiello.
Yeah, Zilmer was in there. He lost to Thomas. He lost to Demetrius Thomas, who's the 1 seed at 125. But let's go all the way back down to 65 kilos. And here, like I said, not a lot of guys, but an incredible amount of depth. Jesse Mendez, the 1 seed, Brock Hardy, the 2, Bo Bassett, the 3, Aiden Valencia, the 4, Real Woods, the 5, Bo Bartlett, 6, Seth Gross, 7, who's up from 61. I think Mendez is also up 61 too. Or no, Bo Bassett is up from 61 to 65. Marcus Blaze is the 8 and Carter Young is the 9. And for a moment, Nick Lee was in here and then he was like, you know what? The vest and these coaching pants, they fit real nice. I don't want to trade them back in for a singlet. So we're down to 9 guys, but I feel like it's still a pretty open field where it's really anyone's game in this entire bracket. I would not be surprised to see really too much of anyone come out of this bracket and make it to Final X, to be completely honest. What are your guys' thoughts here at 65? Kevin, go ahead.
I mean, Jesse Mendez, I'm surprised that why isn't anyone just like, yeah, that dude's like, he's done everything. He had a couple losses in like folk style this year, but as soon as it was game time, dude showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, man. I don't have any reason to think. I know I've said this here. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. But like when I was talking to Jay Jaggers before this season started, and I was like, "Hey, who's going to be like your like breakout guy for the season?" And he said Jesse Mendez, and I was like, "Well, he won the national title the year before. How is he going to be your breakout guy?" And he was like, "Trust me, dude." And then he went and did it again. So I don't know. I've seen him beat Joey McKenna. I know he lost to him the last couple times in freestyle, but you can't take that out of my eyes. So I saw it, and I know he's really good, and I just trust him to be able to train and focus and be ready to go. I'm done doubting him until somebody shows me differently. There's nobody else in this bracket that I'm like, yeah, that guy's going to beat him.
Yeah. Quick correction. It was Gross and Blaze that were both down at 61 and now up at 65. Bo Bartlett was up at 65 for the open. But yeah, Gross ended up beating Blaze to make the final and then lost to Forrest. And then Mendez lost to Joey McKenna in the finals.
I do want to say too, I think Seth Gross had a really good post just about, hey, I've lost to high school guys a couple different times, and they're here and they're ready. And if you like, they're great to have us and kick us in the butt more or less to get us ready to go as some of these older guys. And I'm not going anywhere. I'll be back and I'll be ready to go. And I'm excited. So I really appreciated that as a fellow old guy. So
I've been super impressed with Seth Gross kind of in general, his presence on social media, like how open he is about his processes and everything that's going on, being open about technique and looking for feedback and like engaging in conversation about that. It's really cool to see. And just kind of, he seems reinvigorated and excited to be back in the mix of things. So it's fun to watch him compete again. I think you got to lean towards Mendez just with what we've seen out of him, but this, like Ryan said, this is a pretty wide open bracket because everybody in the pre-seeds, they can all put up crazy points. And no, I don't think anybody over anyone else in this bracket would shock me. There wouldn't be like, oh shit, I didn't expect that. Like, yeah, I could see that. So I think finding the other finalists is going to be a challenge. And I mean, don't sleep on the young guys in this either. So.
Yeah, I like these first round matchups. You get Gross at 7 and Hardy at 2. Like, that's a lot of points on the board. That's some fun scrambling there. And Bo versus Bo, young buck versus a Nittany Lion guy that's, very solid, and interesting to see how those different styles kind of bash there. And then 4 and 5, Valencia and Woods. I mean, again, another older guy versus a younger guy. It's, you kind of get this whole gambit of old guys versus high school guys for some of these. And yeah, rarely really diverse kind of age bracket, and it's gonna be fun, this whole thing. But yeah, you gotta lean Mendez a little bit too. Just like Kevin said, he's a gamer and he's just freaking good, man. He's a really good wrestler.
Yeah, it's as much as I want to lean into that, I think I've kind of gotten into the trance of how good Seth Gross is, and I know he's up 4 kilos from being at 61, but this isn't the first time he's been at 65.
Right.
And the last time that he was up at 65, he had, I believe, jumped from like 57. He was like a lot lower, or at least wrestling a little bit lighter. Maybe not 57. Maybe it was from 61 to 65, but he was a lot lighter jumping to 65. Like, it was a big deal. I remember talking to Reader and Bono at the Open a couple of years ago, where they're like, yeah, like he's still getting his body ready for 65. And it was just like a very different jump. So I'm probably wrong about him being at 57. I don't know why I would think that. I'm probably thinking of college Seth Gross being the skinny guy, but him being at 65 now, I feel like his body type actually fits with the rest of these guys. I mean, him, Marcus Blaze, Brock Hardy, those guys all have the same body style. Very long, lanky guys that pose different styles of threats, specifically Seth Gross, because he is the most unorthodox guy in this entire bracket.
Yeah, he's not that. I think I was going to comment on weight class shifts, and it was just about Olympic years and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like, I remember he was losing to Pantaleo, and then eventually teched him because Pantaleo was cutting his balls off to make 65, and Seth was up a little bit, no excuses whatsoever. He did a great job, and he won the match, which is the goal of every match. So.
Yeah, I was Matt's side for that match. I was standing there watching it, and Pantaleo was a takedown away. It was 8-0, and Gross got the takedown, trapped arm gut, and just rolled him up and teched him, and it was over. And it was like, what the hell just happened? So Gross is a gamer, man, and that's what he brings to the game, along with that unorthodox style. And you saw how he wrestled on that flow card against Austin, right? And he just like, you're in on my legs, it's okay, I'm still gonna score here, right? He's just always been that unorthodox type of guy. So I feel like he just poses such a different style of threat being in here. So my pick is gonna be Seth Gross. I mean, hell, maybe he loses first round, maybe he ends up winning the tournament. But I have a lot of faith in Seth Gross to do very well here, just based on how he's looked recently. He made the finals of the Open and ended up, coming up short, but still, he's certainly a gamer. What other picks you guys making? You guys all going Mendez?
Yep,
that's what I'm taking.
Yeah, I think so.
Bunch of front runners.
I like the way Aiden.
This one's deep, but it's not deep as in like who the winner is probably going to be.
Yeah.
Like I think 70's deep too.
70's wild. I'm anxious to talk about 70.
I think there's probably more of a case you can make for 70 having somebody else win in the 1 seed than 65.
I concur.
Yeah. All right, let's go to 70. James Green, the 1, PJ
Robbie takes Caleb Henson.
Look, I'm conflicted.
He's conflicted. He's got Bryce Andonian in here too.
And Ian Parker.
Yeah,
I don't know
Ian Parker's the 3.
I might sit this one out.
Will Lewin is the 4. Bryce Andonian the 5. Ridge Lovett the 6. Antrell Taylor 7. Caleb Henson 8, and Brayton Lee 9. Which I'm really happy to see Brayton Lee still in the mix and scrapping it up.
Hell yeah!
But this is certainly the big uncle at the number 1 seed. I guess you call him Unc James Green, Unc Green at the top.
Greasy.
Uncle Greasy at the top, and
Lace Man gets paid.
The rest of the children kind of coming in and looking to take him out. And a couple of these guys are guys that he trains with in Antrell Taylor and Ridge Lovett at the 6 and 7,
and guys he used to train with.
And guys he used to train with, right? Bryce Andonian. So like, it's a bunch of guys that are very familiar with each other. And my hope for James Green is that the James that shows up is the guy that is attacking and not the guy that is sitting back, because when he's attacking, he is very hard to beat. And if you wrestle a guy like PJ Duke, for instance, young kid who doesn't seem to be afraid of too much of anything.
Yeah.
But when you wrestle PJ Duke, like, you got to be on your shit. And if he comes out and he's attacking, that is the best James Green that you could ever really see. So that is my hope, is that Uncle Greasy comes out and he's firing on all cylinders and he's ready to go. So I guess that's kind of my homer pick of wanting to see James Green back at having a shot to claim the spot at 70. What are your guys' thoughts?
Can I just take Nebraska? Like, he's not going to run into PJ Duke because Antrell Taylor is going to beat him. I don't know, man. I'm more excited to just see these Nebraska guys go all out. I mean, ultimately, I think I'm going to pick. Hold on. Sergio Lemley. Is that his music?
It's Lemley's
I don't
music.
know. I should have thought through how brackets work a little bit better than this, but ultimately, I don't know. It's going to be really hard for me to think that like Antrell Taylor or Ridge Lovett are going to be held up by any of these dudes. Like, although they're going to have to wrestle each other now that I look at it a little bit closer.
Willow on actually has to score points, and in freestyle he does that,
which is just
he does
mind
do that.
blowing.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was possible for him, and then
Headlocks.
here we are.
Well, because he beat Andonian, I think, the last time they wrestled too, right?
Yeah,
yeah. And so, which also blew my mind. And then I watched the match, and I was like, God, he's a hypnotist. I don't understand.
Super stingy.
He's infuriating.
I don't know. I think if I'm gonna go Antrell Taylor. I've been so impressed with him. If we're talking about dudes who are stingy, like that guy's just a monster and so incredibly talented. I just want to see what he does on the mat in freestyle. I think it's almost what's underrated about freestyle is how easy, maybe not easy. Easy is not the right word. But if you have the hips and you have the athleticism and the agility to kind of like catch somebody just off balance with their head on the inside or throw their head to the inside and then just kind of make that quick hip turn and get a quick, like you can put up points real fast. And he's certainly talented enough on his feet to get the takedowns and do what he needs to do from there. I don't see him getting pushed out. I don't see him doing anything that's going to get him in too much trouble. It's the summer of Antrell. That's what I'm going with.
Like that.
Bad pick. Robbie probably just gonna, in that essence, just say Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I'm not betting against Caleb Henson ever. He scares me. He's so damn good.
Do we get a Ridge Lovett, Caleb Henson rematch?
Hope so. I hope so. I mean, I have a lot of comments on this weight. Ian Parker looked fantastic at the US Open. I wouldn't want to wrestle him. He's very, very strong and scary. Not a huge fan of his draw.
That was wild, though, to see like two Iowa State 133 pounders wrestling each other in the finals at 70 kilograms.
But I mean, I like Antrell. I'm interested to see how he looks in freestyle again. I mean, he's got the accolades, but we haven't seen it for a couple of years. So I'm interested to see what he looks like. I was not expecting Henson to wrestle this summer. So it's a pleasant surprise to see him trying to make a world team. And
yeah, because he was banged up during the season.
Yeah. And I think some things may change. Plans may have changed a little bit with some transfers. So we'll see what next year looks like. But I'm was not expecting to see him this summer. So like I said, I won't bet against Caleb Henson. And I think I would love to see him in the finals against James.
Austin?
The match I won't work with the numbers.
The match that I really would want to see is Andoni and Lovett. That would be entertaining and mission. But yeah, I agree. This one's hard. This one's really hard. I go back and forth with Taylor, Henson, Lovett. They're all just so damn good. Part of me just sticks with the old fashioned James Green. I think the vet gets it done, new hip and everything. So
it's probably the right answer.
I think it is, but there's just so much. Yeah, he's just kind of been at that level. My question, did he get a hip replacement or did he just have surgery on his hip?
I,
You
I don't.
I thought
remember?
it was the new hip.
I thought it was a new hip.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the
Yeah.
extent of it. I don't remember,
I need
but
one of those.
It's just
Yeah.
crazy because my father-in-law got one. He's like 7 years old, and James Green got one. On the
James
half at
had
30,
like
and
he had hip problems for a pretty long time. Like it was like really messing a lot of things up. And
yeah, I've heard that.
that year off where he was coaching and got the hip surgery and everything else, where he truly thought he was done, but then things started to feel good when he was coaching. Like pretty amazing. So it's cool to see him back. And maybe that's why I'm like, man, I really want to see James Green do very well, because
Yeah.
I was there when he took bronze at Worlds in Vegas, and he wrestled Yazdani and just got underhooked all over the mat in the semis, and then came back and won bronze when Yazdani was a 70-kilogram guy. It was the crazy thing. So I'm hopeful for James Green, and my thought is that, being that he's the old guy, is he wants this shot to like finish out on like a really strong level. Obviously, he'd have to wrestle Yanni again. Yanni has looked really, really good. Obviously, he's sitting at Final X now. But yeah, we'll certainly see. I'm taking James Green to come through this bracket, but I would not be surprised to see PJ Duke do very well here, and maybe shock some people or catch some guys off guard.
Yeah, I was going to ask if we're sleeping on PJ Duke or not. I, I haven't. I mean, I haven't seen much of him, just being on the younger side of it. But yeah, he's
There's
really
a lot of talent in this lineup, though. I
yeah,
think
it
Yeah.
is.
so. It's hard to.
He fits
I
right
don't
in.
think, I don't think we're sleeping on him. I just think that it's he he is a young terror. I will say that.
Yeah.
He is a absolute focused nightmare when he's out there on the mat. And that's why I'm like, man, I can see him pulling some sort of, I shouldn't say upset, but he's the youngest guy in this bracket. Every other person in this bracket has gone through multiple college seasons, if not being done with college, and he hasn't even started yet. Right. So
Everyone in this bracket has been an All-American or an NCAA champion.
exactly. Right.
Except for
So
PJ Duke.
that's I think that's why
Slacker.
it may seem like
What an idiot.
we're sleeping on him a little bit because of that. But
No.
man, he just like Seth Gross said, like these youngsters, they're there to take your head off, and there is no respect for you being the old guy, like absolutely none. And PJ Duke is one of those guys at the helm of all of it. So I would not be surprised to see him take out, one or two of these guys, to be completely honest. 74. David Carr gets the 1. Quincy Monday gets the 2. Jared Jock gets the 3. Caliendo 4. Barraclaw 5. Peyton Hall 6. And Joey Blaze at 7. Man.
We go from a really deep weight to a not very deep weight.
Exactly. And not, and mostly because it's on the freestyle side, it's not a deep weight.
Yeah.
The folk style side, you're like, shit, this is really good. Freestyle side, you're like, David Carr has looked lights out. Quincy Monday has looked lights out. Those two guys, it's really tough to say that either one of them is going to be beat before the finals. If anyone can do it, it's the stingy ass Caliendo, to be completely honest. And maybe that's a little bit of recency bias of, seeing Caliendo and how he wrestled throughout the season, but also seeing how he wrestled in the finals of the NCAAs, right? So I'm taking David Carr in all of this, though, because he's been, wrestling super well outside of being teched by Messenbrink in the finals of the Open. So we'll see what happens, but I'm taking Carr here, and I think we get a Carr versus Messenbrink Final X matchup.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I do want to see Joey Blaze in there and getting after Quincy. I think Quincy's he's shown what he can do on the freestyle scene, and obviously was very accomplished in the folk style as well. But I don't know, man. Joey was clearly a gamer when it mattered. Beat Tyler Kasak when nobody gave him a chance and made his way to the finals. And I think, he's going to be a dude who probably isn't at 157 for much longer. He's a big dude, real tall.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be good for him regardless, just getting out there and competing with some of these higher level dudes. Old guys, basically.
I feel the same with Bearclaw. I'm interested to see how he shakes up here, but I mean, I think you have a pretty clear 1-2 with Carr and Monday, and Carr has really separated himself there. So that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah, I'm taking Carr and Monday volume. What is this, 4 or 5 between them and their dads now, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
family kind of has a little bit of a rivalry going here, but yeah, David Carr, I think he has the edge on Quincy Monday, but it's good to see Quincy, training there with his dad a little bit at Morgan State, Coach Kenny Monday and his brother Kennedy there as well. So they got a little family affair going on at Morgan State, which is pretty cool. But
same with Carr at Iowa State. His dad will be in his corner as well.
That's right. Yeah. So it'll be fun to see that.
There was years when I thought I wasn't going to get to see that match. Years. Whether it was like somebody losing in a quarterfinal match or something, and I was like, I thought we were going to meet in the semis or whatever it was. I was just like, we're never going to get it, and it's going to kill me. And then thankfully they did the All-Star thing, and then they've met a couple times since then. And it's just, I'm so happy. It's always great.
It sucks that Nate Carr Jr. is so much older and can't be in the bracket of 79, and then we can get a full-on
That'd be
Carr
amazing.
Monday clash with Kennedy wrestling against Nate Carr Jr.
Nate, get
Kennedy's
it together.
about
Let's go.
6'6". I don't know when Kennedy got so tall, but that boy is
he's
tall,
huge.
tall.
Yeah,
tall man. Yeah,
he's huge. Speaking of Kennedy, let's move to 79. Levi Haynes the 1, Hamity the 2, Simon Ruiz the 3, Karchla the 4, Muhammad McBride the 5, Kennedy Monday the 6, and then Ethan Riddle is the 7. The Hamity versus Haynes rematch, I think we get it. It's really hard to bet against it. But I will say Kennedy Monday has wrestled very well, and he's a huge wrestler. Like, him wrestling Karchla is going to look really funny if it happens. Like, that's just insane. So, and he wrestled really well in that All-Star against Nate Jackson too, even being super undersized wrestling Nate Jackson. So I have a lot of confidence in Kennedy Monday since, returning back to the mat, he's looked really, really good. But this is a Haynes Hamity rematch in the making, and I think Haynes wins it in freestyle. I don't know what Hamity has in freestyle, so I mean, maybe it's a little chalky, but I think Haynes wins 79 and makes it to Final X.
Hamity has the same wild hips and like weird turns that he had in folk style, but more dangerous. Like, that's my opinion. Like, I think, I know he lost the match to Wick, but like, he had that match won until he kind of just fell apart at the end. I think that's, I don't know.
Wick's also 9 feet tall too.
Yeah. Right,
so maybe that's his weakness.
Yeah.
Other guys doesn't wrestle Kennedy, it'll be good.
Well, and that could potentially be his weakness, because he did lose the matches to Isaac Olenek before he transferred over too, and they're like the same body style and everything. So I don't know. I think Hamity's going to come in here with a chip on his shoulder too, having lost that Wick match and being like, shit, I shouldn't be here to begin with. Like, I'm going to go out there. He's going to have a harder road, obviously, to get through it. But I don't know. Does it help to have David Taylor in your corner, a guy who's clearly wrestled with Levi Haynes versus, Kyle Sanderson has not wrestled with Hamity? Maybe that's a thing. Maybe it's not.
Yes.
I don't know.
I mean, the last time Monday and Hamity wrestled, it was in the semis of the Open, and Hamity handled him 14-4. He teched him. So I mean, obviously that
we're talking about the finals here.
Yeah. I'm just saying the length won't be an issue in that regard. But yeah, you're right about the Evan Wick match. It was 8-1, but it was like a late 8-1. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to look at how Haynes wrestled at last year's trials when he hit O'Toole and beat O'Toole the way that he did, and not think that he can continue to do that again. So
Sure.
For me, it's Haynes. Austin, your thoughts?
I think I'm leaning Hamady here over Haynes. Just the NCAA semi match. I feel like Hamady, he won that one. I think that kind of he has Haynes' number a little bit. I know freestyle is a little different. I probably will be very wrong here, but I just had this thing with David Taylor and with this Magic Man stuff he has going on Oklahoma State with these guys. And like these guys really trust him. There's like a new energy there, and I think Hamady is kind of shown why David Taylor was hired there. Make those guys the best that they can be, and he's shown that short amount of time. I think Hamady's going to keep getting better. So that's why I'm taking him.
Is he like Dumbledore?
Dumbledore?
Bigger ears, less of a beard.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, Rob, because literally I thought about saying that exact same thing.
No, I'm kind of leaning the same way. I think kind of same thing. Hamady comes in with a chip on his shoulder. It's been pretty hard to bet against what we've seen coming out of that Oklahoma State room. And I mean, with the signings today, that momentum's clearly still going. So I think I'm going to lean Hamady here.
Who do you think wins in a fight, the Rainey brothers or the Mario brothers?
The Rappos. There's 19 of them.
Just keep coming.
Was anyone else excited to see David Taylor at the Oklahoma City game? That was pretty cool.
Dude, I was not watching the game that night, so I woke up the next morning to go to the gym, and I'm on the treadmill, and ESPN is on in front of me as I'm running, and all of a sudden the highlight comes on. I'm like, wait a second, was that David Taylor? Like, why I guess he was at the game, and then obviously you see that it's the Paycom Center, and you're like, that's why he was at the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets good tickets.
He gets good seats. Speaking of good seats, I think everyone is going to want a front row to the 5 guys that is in the bracket.
Burgers and fries.
At 86. Kyle Dake was probably eating a lot of 5 guys to get up to 86. I'll tell you that right now. Dake with the number 1 seed, Marsteller the 2, Carter Sirachi the 3, Kekheisen the 4, and Marcus Coleman the 5. There's a lot.
Marcus Coleman here.
What's that?
I said poor Marcus Coleman here.
Yeah, that's. He gets Chance Marsteller the first match.
That does not sound pleasant.
There's a lot of NCAA titles in this one. Goodness gracious. There's 9 of them in the first round matchup between Kekheisen. Well, excuse me, not 9 of them. 9 of them would be in the finals between Dake and Starachi. But there's, we can
which
get
will happen.
Yeah, which will most likely happen. But then the Starachi Kekheisen rematch to kick things off will be certainly very interesting as well. So, I'm very interested in this match. I'm obviously interested in the match between Starachi and Dake, but my mind goes back to when Dake said he was going to Penn State, and Starachi was like, it tweeted out, you should have stayed at Cornell. So I wonder if they've patched things up since then, because Starachi and Dake haven't been in the same bracket at all since Dake got to Penn State. So should be very interesting should they match up in the final and make things happen. But yeah, it's tough to bet. I mean, you can't bet against Kyle Dake in this bracket. It's really tough to do that, to be completely honest. For me, it's Dake, but I think the match between him and Marsteller is going to be a lot of fun. If it was to happen, it would be a lot of fun. But I do think that it is a Carter Starachi and Kyle Dake match that happens at some point in there. So,
well, the Dake Kekheisen one, I don't remember what the score was. It was either a tech fall or it was like he beat him by 9 points or something like. But he beat him up good. So I'm not particularly worried about that. I'm sure Parker's going to come in there with a little bit more.
He beat him 8-1.
Yeah, 8-1. Like he'll come in there with a little bit different style maybe or different approach or what have you. But Kyle Dake is still Kyle Dake. But dude, I don't know, man. Like I wish like I had seen Srirachi with like a little bit more, because like at least a year or so ago, like we've seen Messenbrink have like sustained freestyle success, and at least like be a pain in the ass for Jordan Burroughs. You know what I mean? So you're like, this guy's coming, and it's gonna be tough. Yeah. I don't necessarily know that Srirachi's style translates as well to freestyle.
And now that I think about it, quick correction, that Srirachi Dake match would happen in the semis, not the finals. Because they're 1-3, not 1-2. They'd be on the same side of the bracket. So winner of, I'm pretty sure wouldn't it be winner of Kekaizen Srirachi ends up having Dake in the semis?
Why would it change the setup? Wouldn't it just be kind of a rat tail match 4-5 and then go to a regular bracket?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Weird ass Michigan people calling it a rat tail. What's wrong with you? A rat tail's a haircut. Get it together. Launch.
So all right. So here's
haircut. Probably would know.
Here's another thing.
I used to have one when I had hair.
Everybody had one.
That was
90s.
The official haircut of Wyoming.
Right? So I went to Ann Arbor Pioneer High School, the Ann Arbor Pioneers. Redundant and stupid, sure. But not as stupid as the Ann Arbor Huron River Rats. That's
an awesome name.
That's dirty.
It is dirty. It was fitting. Yeah.
So wait, what was your school? Where did you go?
The Ann Arbor Pioneers.
So you guys were the APPs.
It was the AAPHS.
Oh. You think you were down with
Pioneer
OPP?
High School. Yeah. We were down with OPP.
You know me.
Yeah, you know me.
Anyway, back to the wrestling. Yeah. So either way you slice it, these matches are going to be fun because there's a lot of NCAA titles that are going to be thrown into the mix. I think what we should do is this should be like a poker game where you got to ante up with at least one title once you get to a certain point. Obviously,
Sorry, Marcus.
Sorry, Marcus. Sorry, Marsteller. I know you guys don't have any titles or anything, but the three guys that have been in the finals multiple times, you got to ante up. You got to throw at least one title in. I mean, Carter will eventually win, but you gotta at least go all in somehow.
Well, this seems like a good time to share the Kellen Russell being a 6-time Big Ten champion story. So my understanding is that I don't remember where it was, somewhere around the world, but there was a freestyle tournament, and Royce Alger, Jimmy Kennedy, and Kellen Russell were all in this hotel lobby. And at some point, there was a bet about, I think it was Jimmy being able to turn Royce, which, to my recollection, he did. At that point, then it changed to Royce and Jimmy betting Big Ten championships on rock, paper, scissors. And so, Royce put up his 2 Big Ten titles against Kellen, and Kellen beat him. So Kellen Russell is a 6-time Big Ten champion. Royce Alger was a 0-time Big Ten champion. And that's how the history books should record this.
I think that's how every rock, paper, scissors should go. Is you got to put up titles.
It's got
when you're a highly credentialed wrestler, you got to put up some titles. Like
he's got Matt Stencil beat. That's amazing.
That's how you ante up. That's how you ante up in this game. So is everybody taking Dake, or is anyone taking anybody else?
I'm still taking Dake because I made the Srirachi point, but I'm not going to stand by it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can pick against him.
Agreed. 92, not a ton of depth either. I think Homer and me wants to take Mike Mock, to be completely
That's
honest.
who I'm taking.
I love that guy. Like,
yeah, Mike Mock's the man.
Love him. Josh Barr the 1, Aiden Sinclair the 2, Mock the 3, Dustin Plott the 4, Patrick Brophy is the 5.
Who's that?
Not even going to acknowledge you.
Citadel's finest.
Not even going to acknowledge you. Like I said, I'm picking Mock. I am. I want to see it happen. I'm throwing my bias out there. my bias card of Mock being a stand-up human and always been and has been my boy since those trips to NC State way back when.
And amazing hair.
He's a good dude.
Great
He's
hair.
a good
And
dude.
he always smells good.
I'm
There's
mad
that, too.
I'm mad that he decided to move to the Lehigh Valley literally the week after I moved back here to Texas. Yeah. So maybe he's avoiding me. I don't know, but I'm still gonna pick him. I think that he wins here at 92, and it'll be a good time. Who's your pick, guys, at 92? Austin, you go first.
I like Machiavello. Close one. He lost a close one to Sinclair at the Open. I think he reverses that. And I think he'll knock off Barr. Then I just Machiavello. Geez, a little older.
I don't think Machiavelli's going to be there. He's a little predisposed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like him.
He's got a mean bar arm though. At least he used to.
I like his hair too. And he smells good according to Robbie.
He
so
does have great hair.
That's
He
one
does
thing.
have great hair. He does smell good. Yeah, every time he's a good hugger. He smells good. It's a good dude.
Good dude.
Now I'm like, I feel left out. Like, am I the only one who hasn't hugged him?
Apparently, yes.
Well, I guess I'm the only one who's not picking him then. If I don't know how good he smells, how can I, go in on
This
that?
is it. This is where we go full on bias pick. Is
Josh
with Mike
Barr.
Mock at 92.
Yeah, I'm going Josh Barr. He's from Michigan, wrestles at Penn State, but I'm also going to jump in and really lean into the fact that, like, I'm kind of done doubting Josh Barr. I'm going to assume he's just going to win his things until he doesn't.
You realize that the two guys that you've said that you're not going to doubt them both lost in the NCAA finals.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, they made it there. Isn't that good?
They've learned their lesson.
Is it like that's pretty good? You know who else didn't like get there? Everyone else except for the person who won.
Any of us in this conversation did not.
I haven't been there yet.
We
Did
tried
not
our
These days.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the Limitless pill, and I'm just gonna show up at Central Michigan with bunch of years of eligibility left.
I think that's just called Adderall, but who am I to judge?
That movie would have been a lot less fun.
Yeah, very true.
More relatable, maybe.
Way more relatable. We've already talked about 97. Let's go to 125. Demetrius Thomas is the 1, Trent Hilger the 2, Jordan Wood the 3, Christian Lance the 4, and Lucas Stoddard the 5. Man.
Big Meech looked great at the Open.
Who's that?
And Demetrius, Big Meech has looked great.
Yeah.
And also great dude. Super nice.
Does he smell good?
I haven't smelled him. I haven't given him as many hugs as I've given Mock. But Trent Hilger has great hair. So that's a tough one.
And he trains with that mammoth of a man, Hayden Zomer, who we talked about at 97.
Mm.
And this is why
Who's
we're
probably
follow us
bigger than Hilger,
Pod
which is crazy.
Podcast. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk about hugging dudes and what they smell like. In-depth analysis.
It's really just me. Sorry.
Really just Robbie making shit weird.
That's what I'm here for.
As if this podcast didn't start off weird enough.
Yeah.
I'm taking Jordan Wood. Maybe it's wishful thinking on my part, but I'm taking Jordan Wood. It's again my 92 and my 125 are homer picks. I'm a Lehigh Valley guy, and I can't go against the Lehigh Valley men that they now are. Mock, transplant from NC State. Jordan Wood, a Lehigh Valley guy through and through, with going to Lehigh. But I think that Jordan Wood can get the job done here. At least, like I said, I want him to, but I think that he does as well. Stand-up human as well, and always been a really good dude. And was one of those guys that was competing with Gable back in the day and was always going head-to-head. I mean, those guys wrestling at Who's Number One, some, matches that legends are made of, right? So always had really high opinion of Jordan Wood, and always wanted to see him succeed. And I honestly think that he does it here to make Final X. And Lehigh Valley Wrestling RTC ends up with 2 guys at Final X from 92 and 125.
I was thinking Jordan Wood too. I do think this is kind of a toss up, but Demetrius Thomas looked fantastic. But I'm going to make the case for Trent Hilger here because I want to make sure he gets the shout out. This is a close weight, in general, and I think that if you're going to make the case for Trent Hilger, it's he's demonstrated he's a very good wrestler. B,
great hair.
He is wrestling in the same room with Gable Steveson, with Hayden Zilmer. With
Brandon Eggum, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, he's wrestling in a room with excellent heavyweights consistently. That's why he went there. So he's been training for this. He's ready for it. I think he's absolutely got everything that you need technique wise and talent wise and training partner wise to take that step from where he was a couple weeks ago to where he's trying to be.
Other thoughts?
I like Jordan Wood. First and only 5-time EIWA champion. It's got to mean something, right? So I'll take him. Demetrius Thomas did look good though. He did beat him by a few points at the Open, but yeah, I like revenge here. I think Wood is my pick.
I think super impressed with Demetrius at the Open.
6-1 over Wood in the semis.
Yeah, I think he at least makes a run to the finals. I think Hilger makes the finals on the other side. I like Meach to keep going. I think he's making some strides and really figuring things out. And I like how he's looked.
Cool. Well, that wraps up freestyle on the men's side. There's a couple of headlines on the women's side. We've got just like we do on the men's side. I mean, we've got Aaron Golston, who's obviously been in the mix for a very long time, along with Emily Shilson. Shilson was one of those absolute killers coming up through the ranks, and I think at 50 we'll probably see a Shilson and Golston match. Felicity Taylor, Katie Gomez, Sage Mortimer, a lot of names that we have seen throughout the years of these girls coming up through cadets and juniors, and I guess it's what U20s and U17s and everything now, but Felicity Taylor with the top seed, Sage Mortimer the 3, Katie Gomez the 2, and then Jakara in here at 55. I know Jakara's kind of bounced back and forth. She's been up at 55. She was down at 53, I think, for like Olympic years. But I mean, she's got Rana Gross, Seth's wife, in here. Formerly Rana Heaton, the cadet world champ way back in the day.
Seth, famously known as Rana's husband.
Seth, famously known as Rana's husband. He forfeits the title, the NCAA title he has, and just becomes Rana's husband, which he would probably tell you is pretty cool. He's a pretty good guy. I think he would take that.
Seems to be okay with it.
Seems to be all right with it. He signed up for it. He put a ring on it. So yeah, but I
cannot attest that Seth smells good.
I think Jakara wins here at 55. Trying to see, Michaela Beck she might have. I think she wins. I feel like I'm going kind of chalk down this entire thing.
I like XMP there.
Yeah, that she's also been very impressive too.
Well, I might as well jump back a weight class or two. Sage Mortimer, don't sleep on her either.
Yeah. Agreed.
Post City's been fantastic and throughout her career, and we always love her. But Sage, I think, is on a war path and trying to get after this now. She wants to make one of these world teams.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of glossed over it, but Emily Shilson I was always afraid of that little girl, to be completely honest. Do you ever see like the game face? You've been around when she's intense. She's intense. She is very intense. And, you see these girls kind of
through your soul.
It's a serious stare. So yeah, I mean, I think, we have a good amount of talent on the men's as well as the women's side. I think the headline here obviously is a meet coming down to 72 after winning, the every title in the book that she has won, never lost, right? Now down at 72, Kennedy
big baller brand.
Yeah, big baller brand. I'm glad you guys picked that up. Never lost. Kennedy Blades up at 76, and she's already in at Final X. Skylar Grote in here at 72. I'm pretty sure that that's probably going to be the final. Amit versus Skylar will be in the final. Something that we'll certainly see. So, we have a good amount of talent, I would say. Most of the girls that are the most talented outside of 72, where we got Skylar and Amit, are already qualified for Final X. But
I like the 76 final or probable final. Maki and Diamond Guilford. That could be a fun one. And Marilyn Didi is an awesome name.
I'm always a big fan of the name Diamond, mostly because it's not spelled the same way. It's spelled with a Y. So big fan of that. So yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, the women's bracket's not as deep, and mostly because a lot, Helen automatic qualifier to Final X. So, not as deep on that side of things, but we'll certainly be seeing the biggest and baddest matches happening at Final X. For sure. So that should be a ton of fun.
Quick shout out. I feel like Skylar Grote right now is kind of in that situation when you were like Andrew Howe and you were just stuck behind prime Jordan Burroughs, and it was
man.
It sucks. Like, I could probably win a medal, but like, maybe I'm gonna try.
Yeah,
I'm making weight and I'm showing up and I'm gonna compete.
I mean, the thing that I love about Skylar is, like, she puts out a ton of positivity. She's not afraid to kind of speak up for women's wrestling, and talking about the toxicity of, cutting weight and what women go through on that side of, like, cutting weight and worried about how you're looking, and then worrying about the different comments and stuff. And, it's the mental side that the men don't have to go through at all. So her being the mouthpiece for that is pretty awesome, to be completely honest. And
she's a significantly great ambassador for all positive things.
And I think that's amazing for it, right? Yes. So, and she's been in the spotlight for a very long time. I mean, I can remember when she was the first girl to win a Fargo title from New Jersey. So she's been around for a very long time, and so you're right. She is kind of stuck behind our biggest and brightest, right? Because even if it was switched, even if Amit was still up at 76, she would have Kennedy Blades to worry about at 72. So it's a good problem for us to have, for sure. But, talent is just going to continue to stack up. So
chase dreams.
I see Skylar do a clinic at Penn last year too, and she was very good with the kids. So I think, her future might involve some coaching in some aspects. So I think she's, like you said, great ambassador for the sport.
I'll share this story quick. I think I shared it once on Blood Round, but I met her in Detroit. And if anyone remembers me in Detroit, I had a mustache and I was wearing all Detroit gear every day, and I was just floating around different things.
That checks out.
Had a great time. But I was in a state unlike I would normally want to introduce myself to somebody like Skylar Grote. Thought it was going to be a brief, hey, big fan of yours. Just wanted to introduce myself to you. You're awesome. Have a great rest of your day. But instead, she was so nice. She just kind of like sucked me into this conversation that I'm like trying to get away from, not because I didn't want to talk to Skylar, but like because I was like, I'm embarrassed for myself already. And you're so nice to me that you're like not allowing me to get away. So yeah, fantastic person. Big Skylar Grote fan since then. I haven't had a chance to, soberly say like, thanks for that. That was really nice of you. But I guess this is my version of that.
Yeah, Skylar's awesome. She's always been nice. Anytime I reach out to her with any sort of questions or anything about, like, some of the posts that she has, like, enlighten me on that, right? Like, I want to learn more about that side of it, because it's stuff that I've never had to go through, right? And I have nieces who are cheerleaders, and it's like, I want to know about this because of XYZ. So kind of getting that insight from a high level athlete, that you can just kind of send a message to, and she always responds every single time. So big shout out to her. She's, like I said, been in the spotlight for a long time, and she's done a lot of good with the spotlight that she's had. So very awesome on her part. Gentlemen, those are the brackets. that's everything for the World Team Trials coming up. Well, today is when it's starting, so this will be out before the tournament starts. So yeah, make sure that you guys are tuning in for the World Team Trials. And as I said at the beginning, this is our last show under this logo. Our new logo will be attached to these very strong and debonair faces and Kevin's starting next
And
week.
Kevin.
And go follow us on the other platform. The Quad Pod is the show, Quad Pod Wrestling on YouTube as well as Instagram, and then Quad Pod Wrestle on Twitter. Sponsored by Poseidon Strength. Really appreciate those guys again. So yeah, be on the lookout for way more content coming from us, more stuff coming on social, some different fun stuff. We've got some segments prepared. I swear it won't be as crazy as this show has been. We'll try to button it up a little bit, but remember, we're professional idiots before we're professional anythings. So we're always going to have a lot of fun. We're going to curse. We might drink a little bit. But it's going to be more like you and your friends talking about wrestling and less like we are sitting in a studio and trying to be as polished and buttoned up and impactful as we truly need to be. But
I'm told there will be vests.
There will most likely be vests. Our sponsor said today, whatever apparel we want to get created, they will supply it with their logo on it. So look for all the fun stuff that we have. We will have, discount codes from our sponsor as well. Really, really cool strength and conditioning as well as strength equipment that they have. So it'll be really, really fun. But gentlemen, this is the end of this chapter. On to the next one next week. As I said, Wednesdays, we will be on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, every single one of those different platforms. So make sure you guys tune in, like, share, subscribe, all that fun YouTube shit. And make sure you're always commenting and engaging with literally everything, because we'll probably have a segment where we're just kind of talking about the comments that we get, whether they are hateful or whether they're nice. And the other thing is we do have an email address too. So there's an email address, so quadpodwrestling@gmail.com. So if you don't want to leave a comment, you can email us as well. But all those things will be in the comments below. So like I said, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Leave comments, give us praise, give us your shit talk, give us whatever. We'll probably pay attention to it. Or if you're dumb enough, we will ignore it. But as always, we appreciate everyone listening and watching our stupidity, as well as the wrestling takes that we have and the insight that we have. And we'll see you next week on the Quad Pod.